very warm welcome to all the viewers. Today, we are going to read and understand Emily Dickinson's The Brain is Wider Than the Sky. Emily Dickinson is an American poet who is known for her bold original verse, and she is therefore also called the very original poets of all time. She was born on 10 December 1830 in Amherst, United States, and she died on 15 May 1886 in United States. Her poetry is heavily influenced by the metaphysical poets of the 17th century England, and she admired Robert Browning, Elizabeth Browning, and John Keats. So, this poem, The Brain is Wider Than the Sky, is very easy to read, but it has a deep meaning which we will understand. Let's read it once. The brain is wider than the sky, for put them side by side, the one the other will contain, with ease and you beside. The brain is deeper than the sea, for hold them blue to blue, the one the other will absorb, as sponges buckets do. The brain is just the weight of God, for heft them pound for pound, and they will differ, if they do, as syllable from sound. This poem is basically based on the theme of the power of human mind. The poet compares the brain with many things, like the sky in the first stanza, the sea in the second stanza, and the God in the third stanza. And also, the another theme in the poem is the complicated relationship between the mind and the outer world, or the humanity's relationship to God. The human mind is limitless in potential, and this connects humanity to God, because it can contain infinite, just like God contains infinite in it. So we'll understand each stanza carefully. The brain is wider than the sky, for put them side by side, the one the other will contain with ease, and you beside. So, in the first stanza, the brain is wider than the sky. The speaker begins by making use of the line, which was later used as the title of the poetry. And in Dickinson's poetry, we can see that this is often the case. Also, these dashes, the dash we can see after the brain, and then is wider than the sky, then there is a long dash. This is called caesura. Now, what is caesura? So caesura is a rhythmic device which is often used to designate the break of flow of meter and indicate short pauses. So that is why this has been used in the whole poem. We can see this. And so the first line, the brain is wider than the sky. Here, the poet is incredibly impressed with the brain and its capacity, that it is comparing it to the sky. This is, of course, a metaphor, and the poet is referring to the brain's capacity to synthesize information. You know, that is why it is calling it wide, like the sky is so wide, it is you cannot find the end of the sky anywhere. So the same way, the mind is also limitless. uh, for put them side by side, the one the other will contain with ease, and you beside. So it is saying that the brain will contain the whole information and the whole world, we can say. And with that, it can also contain you, it can also think about you, or then it means that still some space will be left to think about something else. So basically, Emily Dickinson is describing how the brain has an infinite capacity to explore the world, and there are no limits to the brain, and to as there are no limits to the sky. So, and with everything else, it can think of you as well. Then we come to the second stanza. The brain is deeper than the sea, For hold them blue to blue, the one the other will absorb as sponges buckets do. So in the second stanza, again the poet is very impressed by the capacity of the brain, and she is again giving us a metaphorical comparison and comparing the brain with the deep depth of the sea. And she's saying that however enormously deep the sea be, but it cannot be deep as the brain. She And like the sponges absorb water from the bucket, the same way the brain can absorb uh, uh, all the potential and infinite amount of information. So it has a limitless potential, like sponges can absorb the whole water from a bucket. So the same way it can absorb a lot of things, and she's basically praising the human mind's capacity, that it can imagine, it can perceive, it can create, it can innovate. So it is boundless in its potential. Then we come to the third stanza. The brain is just the weight of God. Forever them pound for pound, and they will differ if they do, as syllable from sound. So here the poet is comparing the brain in terms of weight to the God, and he's saying that, and she's saying that if we compare the weights of the brain and God, um, pound to pound means unit wide measurement, they will be almost the same. And basically the poet wants to say that the power and importance of God is same as that of brain, and there is no much difference left. And even if they differ, it is only as syllable and sounds differ, means there is very minute or almost no difference. So and in the last line, which is and they will differ if they do, a syllable from sound. So this is a very complicated line, you can say, and it compares the human brain to syllables and God's energy, his power, and to its sound. So if we were to lift the brain and God and compare the weight of each, there would be very minor differences between the two, and this will be the difference between a single part of speech and sound itself, which is very minute or negligible. So this is what it the whole poem demonstrates. And also the whole poem gives us an idea that the mind is so vast that it can wrap itself almost everything. So it is able to imagine endless. It has a lot of potential. It is able to create and innovate, and it has a capacity to perceive and learn which has no limits, and it has an infinite power to absorb things. And the mind has a mighty power to observe things, and it is as limitless as to heaven itself. And also the theme of as I earlier told you, that humanity has a relationship to God, it is also presented very well in the poem. And the speaker argues that the human mind is wider and deeper and widest, and like the deepest things on earth, the sky and the sea, it is more deeper and more wider than them. But later, by comparing the mind with the God, the speaker said that, but here the God and the mind has very minute differences. So the speaker says that the mind can match God, and so basically humanity can match God. And if the human mind and God are different at all, the speaker goes on that they are different in sense that a syllable is different from a sound. Very minute difference, as I already told you. So And there is one more idea considered in this by many critics, that the poet wants to say that the human mind actually gives shape to God, making God comprehensible to human understanding. So you can the poetry has a very mysterious and beautiful uh, thing, that you read it and you make your own perception, or you understand it as you read it, and according to your experiences, or according to your understanding. So you are free to uh, find the meaning and understand it. But whatever I understood from it, I told you. Thank you so much. Thank you.